What really matters for beating the game is beating the bosses. So I'm gonna rank the 10 classes purely by which is generally better at fighting bosses by default, as they come, without farming to overlevel or getting the most busted weapon in the game. And our trial subject will be Tree Sentinel, because he's the true test of Limgrave, and whichever class can beat him easily can also beat the rest of the bosses. So here we go, beating Tree Sentinel with every class as they come by default, and finding out which are truly the best. Warrior is number 10 because there are no upsides to him. He has bad armor, basic health, and basic stamina, but that is to be expected. He's supposed to shine in dexterity based DPS, right? No, that isn't the case either. His blades deal low damage that kind of stacks up in long combos, but bosses don't really sit there and wait for you to do your whole thing now, do they? The thing is, bosses give you small windows for punishing, and the warrior, who's supposed to be the punisher by design, completely fails to put enemies in their place. Bandit has a bow, but even he can tell you it has low damage and isn't really worth it, maybe for finishing off a fight. But his dagger has bleed, awesome right? Not really. The dagger has such low damage that all the bleed does is compensate for it. The true strength of the dagger is the Ash of War. Quickstep makes dodging easier, but it still won't save you if you mess up the timing, but it does allow you to be ready to punish faster, giving you bigger damage windows. Bandit might not be a jack of all trades, but at least he has a few tricks up his sleeve. Hero is basically strength based warrior. He doesn't have good defense, but at least his offense is passable. His axe isn't miserable like the scimitars and does decent damage with every swing, and although expensive and slow, he has a decent Ash of War. The big downside with Hero is that his axe is slow and short, resulting in a lot of your attempts to punish the enemy not looking very heroic. Prisoner is my favorite class, but for boss fights, his starting kit kinda falls behind the rest of the remaining classes, which are all actually pretty strong. He has a spell that can be used for bosses, but it has a delay, so I didn't bother using it because Tree Sentinel will be blocking or out of the way by the time it hit. But even though the defense is also lackluster, this class compensates with the S-Stock. The S-Stock is basically the opposite of the Hero Axe. It has a cheap and fast Ash of War, and the normal attacks don't deal much damage, but they do have good range and come in quick succession. Meaning you won't be a prisoner to longer punishing windows, but free to punish at every chance. What people don't understand about the Wretch is that in the class description, the game isn't telling you the class sucks because all it has is a club. It is telling you it's amazing because it has a club. You see, in previous games, the Wretch was indeed only for crazy people and those who wanted a true level 1 character. But we are in Elden Ring now, and with the new stance break mechanic, the club is actually the strongest weapon so far, if used correctly. 2 charge strong attacks and a jumping charge attack, and boom, Tree Sentinel will kneel for mercy like a poor wretch. Just watch out for attacks because you can get one shot pretty easily. But really, that isn't much of a problem when your opponent is lying all wretched in the ground half of the time. Vagabond is kinda easy mode. His only downside are his average offensive options, but his health, shield, and armor are so overkill that as long as you fight decently, the opponent is bound to die before you do. But most important of all is how you can mix your crazy strong defense with your offense with the new guard counters, which saves the class from being straight up boring. So if you're a player that makes mistakes more often than not, you and the Vagabond can both finally stop wandering and settle in together. Prophet just might be the most underrated class. Yeah, his defense sucks, although he compensates a bit with a healing spell, but hear me out, none of that matters much. In the entire Dark Souls trilogy, we had this pyromancy called Combustion. I always liked it as a prospect of a pyro replacement for melee attacks, but it never really worked like that because the casting was too slow and your character had to come to a full stop. That is not the case anymore. The Prophet's Catch Flame incantation is the return of that pyromancy, but fast and mobile. And trust me, it's a lot of fun. And yeah, this class also packs a decent spear, but I can prophesize you won't be using it over your modern pyromancy. With decent armor, decent spells, a 100% physical resistance shield, and a good sword with a powerful Ash of War, all I can really do is confess to you that this class is just a more versatile and fun Vagabond. This class has a shield, decent armor, a good bow, good stats, it even has fire arrows. But literally the sum of all those parts is nothing compared with the Uchi Katana. Katanas have always been sort of mid-game and rather strong weapons in Souls games, but this time you just get one for free right away and it's stronger than ever. Not only does it have good damage and reach, but it also has insane bleed build up, and on top of that it has an Ash of War that allows you to do absurdly fast stance breaking heavy attacks. I mean, at this point From Software 2 has tried out giving it magic beams too. Oh. Uh-oh. But really, if you want revenge on 3 Sentinel by beating him with melee right after the tutorial, this is the most satisfying way. Defense hardly matters if the boss is dead before he can have many shots at killing you. Offense is the best defense. And with how busted the katana is, I hope I won't find you cheesing any bosses with the bow, right? That wouldn't be very samurai of you. Samurai isn't far behind with his melee domination, but Astrologer is still the best boss fight starting class, as long as you're fine with not fighting fair and square. Just allocate most of your flask charges to the one for mana and you'll basically have enough to kill 3 Sentinel without having to engage up close. You just have to stay close enough for him to attack, but at the same time far enough for him to not hit you with his combos, and shoot your spells while he's attacking so he doesn't bounce them back to you with his shield. All that you have to avoid is making an obvious mistake, because with the terrible HP and armor of this class, you will die. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like and comment if you want. This channel just blew up with the release of Elden Ring, and I'd love to keep sharing and talking about this game. Also, I might try something crazier later, so stay tuned for that. And if you have any questions or need any help with the game, feel free to ask in the comments. I'll help in whatever way I can. See you there.